Hi folks, welcome to this quick walkthrough of how to utilize one of our workshop tools, Perusall. Just so you know, the screen looks a little different right now for this recording than what it probably looks like for you because in order to make this work, I can't actually be in sample student mode for a variety of reasons. But you should have a fairly quick amount of ease getting to where you need to be based on this video. So no matter where you are in our course, at any time, you will easily be able to get to Perusall by coming over to the left side menu, which again is probably ordered a little different for you, but somewhere relatively close to the top, you should see Perusall 1.3. So all you'll need to do is click on this. And when you do, Perusall is going to open in a new screen. The very first time you do this, it's going to look a little different. It's going to offer you a tour that you are welcome to take that will go over a lot of stuff about Perusall, including the highlights that I'm going to hit here. Also, depending on the first time that you go into Perusall, it may actually look a little different. At the moment, as of my recording of this, I obviously don't have any of your workshop pieces that are going to be assigned. So when you log in, what you will probably see is you will be on this assignments page, and there will be a list of blocked assignments, kind of blocked like this, but will be each of your workshop pieces, and will say something like your name's workshop. And they'll be listed in the order that you are going to get workshopped. When we get to the second workshop where you're split into groups, I will be able to set things so that in order to avoid any confusion, you'll only see the pieces for that second workshop that you are actually going to be responsible for reading. Okay. But what I want to go over today is a couple of things. One, how to use Perusall the way that we want to use it, from start, where you're going to annotate your own piece, to finish, where you're reading other people's work. And then I'll talk just very quickly about how you might want people to read your work. So let's start with how you will annotate work. So the thing with Perusall is what I really love about this tool is this is essentially an annotating tool. You can see over here, just on the instructor side, there's all sorts of different things that as the instructor I can add here. I can add documents, which is primarily what I'll be doing, pages from Canvas, web pages. I can add a quiz, videos, etc., etc. Links to websites, so that you will be able to read them, highlight things, and make notes in them. And so the reason I like to use this for our workshops is in addition to the kind of macro level observations you will receive through the discussion board, you'll actually get notes in text from folks. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to use this sample workshop document that's very short to show you how to do this. When you click on an assignment, you're going to see a couple of similar buttons to these. And the one that you're really going to want to worry about the most is open. So you'll click to open, and suddenly the document will pop up here. Now, this little current conversation column may not be there yet. That's okay. In order to make a note or make a conversation, all you'll have to do is bring your cursor over into the text somewhere and highlight something. And once you do, this little box over here is going to show up and you can start typing. Now, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask you all to do, is in your workshop pieces, hopefully you put your name at the top somewhere. So if you haven't already done that, resave it and put your name at the top. What I'm going to ask you to do is, for the purposes of getting your work workshopped the way you want and with the kind of feedback you want, is to highlight your name, and then in a comment where your name is, put a note about what kind of feedback you'd like. So what I'm going to do here is I've copied to my clipboard some options. You will have seen this already in the workshop module. It's the same language directly, but you can see some of the options that you have for how you want to get workshopped. These are not exhaustive, nor do you have to pick one of these. These are just some examples of some of the ways people choose to get their work workshopped, but really it's entirely up to you. You might say, any kind of feedback is totally cool. I don't really care. You might have, I would like you to comment on this component, this thing, how I did this thing, blah, 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 blah. But when you're done typing your comment, the important thing is to hit enter. And now that comment has been loaded. So anytime someone comes in, blue highlights are your own comments. But if you see something highlighted in yellow, that means someone else has made a comment. And in order to see those, you just hover your cursor over them and you click on them. Okay? Now, a couple of things. Before I move on to actually annotating other people's work, the last thing I would like to add about yours is, in addition to this comment at the top, and this is completely optional, if there are spots within your work that you have particular questions about. Let's say for some reason I want to know if the image in this sentence makes sense. It's perfectly fine if you, as the writer, want to add questions throughout your piece. I would just be careful about doing this too much. I would say if you've got more than 4 or 5, you want to wrap that up. So just think of that as like big things that you really want, that are very important to you to get feedback on, to put those comments. Don't be annotating every single paragraph or every single sentence or something like that. That's just a little more than we want. Now, so that's what you'll do as the writer of the piece. Now, when you are reading, please remember that the parts in Perusall for the workshop are 2 phases. So phase 1, part A, is you posting 3 initial comments of your own in each person's work. So the first thing you're going to do when you come in to read their work is you want to click on their annotation and see what they want, and have that at the forefront of your mind as you are reading the writer's work. Then as you're reading, you are expected, as phase 1, part A, to insert a minimum of 3 comments into their work with your thoughts as they relate to their request. These can come anywhere in the piece, but try to spread them out a little bit. So don't just have them all be in the very first paragraph and be like, bam, I'm done with my feedback. Spread them out. Now, when you are ready to make a comment, highlighting no more than a word or 2 is helpful. So instead of being like, I want to comment on this whole paragraph, so I'm going to do this, just post a little comment right here, okay? And then you can type in your comment. I'm not going to type in because I don't want to get this one all messy. So try to keep the highlighting brief, but it can refer to more than what is highlighted, but just make it in the proximity of what is highlighted. So do 3 of those. Then phase 2, part A, is to return after the deadline for phase 1, part A, and to respond in some way to 3 of your classmates' comments. This can be in agreement, in disagreement with explanation, or elaboration or response of some sort. And so what you'll do to do that is, I'm just going to don't do it to their name. So try to avoid adding comments to the very first comment by the writer. But I'm just going to use this as my way of showing this. So you'll click on someone else's comment, and then if you scroll down, there's a little bubble for you to type in a comment. And this is where you will write, I agree with you because blank. I don't know if I think the same here, and here's why. Or something like, this is an interesting idea for improvement. What about blank? And then you'll just hit enter again. I'm not going to because I don't want to actually have that save. So I'm just going to delete that. But make sure you always hit enter, okay? And then it will add that comment to the writer, the initial comment. One last thing, if you see these comments embedded by the writer throughout their piece where they have specific questions, it is you can count those, you can respond to those and count them either as your part of your 3 initial comments or as 3 of your response comments for phase 2, part A. The way that I will know which one you want them counted on is going to depend, and this is important, on when you do them. So if you do them by the initial deadline, I'm going to consider them part of those minimum 3 initial comments for phase 1, part A. If you do them by in between the first deadline and the second deadline, I'm going to consider them part of that second phase, part A, okay? And so it's up to you which one you want those to be, whether you want them to count toward your initial comments or as responses to comments, but that's going to depend on when you post them, all right? So that's basically what you need to know. There's some information elsewhere in this module about gathering your feedback. You will eventually be able to download all of the comments that people have left you in a PDF. There are reasons that you can't do that from the start, but there's a separate video that explains how to do all of that. Okay. If you think of any questions or have any challenges, just let me know. I'm happy to help. I hope you'll find that this is relatively intuitive, but do not be hesitant to ask questions if you need to get them answered. Thanks, everybody.